After Jesus directed the disciples to feed 20,000 people, he made it possible for everyone to have enough. We heard that last week. This week, he tells them to get into the boat and go ahead of him. He finally gets some time alone to pray and meditate and process his cousin's recent execution. While taking some time to reconnect with God and center himself for his earthly mission, the disciples aren't having a great time. They used boats because they had to, but large bodies of water were not their friends. Oceans were places of chaos, like at creation, and places that trapped you, like in Exodus, requiring God's power to part the Red Sea, which we recalled in our first canticle. The disciples have gotten in the boat, and they're very far from land. The sea is not their friend. Matthew writes clearly that the waves are battering them. They have gone farther from the land than they meant, and they are experiencing chaos because the wind is against them. This is not the first time in Matthew's gospel that the disciples have experienced chaos while on the sea. Between Brandon reading the Times app and me listening to NPR's Up First, I feel like every morning is chaos. We all sheltered in place for 13 weeks, at least. Some of us still are sheltered in place. We're wearing masks. You're all spaced apart from one another. You've had your temperature checked and answered questions about your health. We sanitize hands on the way in and don't touch much once we're here. Then we sanitize surfaces after you leave. We've done everything we're supposed to do. Yet there are at least 162,000 Americans dead from COVID-19. And the University of Washington this morning's forecast predicted at least another 100,000 more. And 5 million positive cases. And the trend doesn't look like it's changing anytime soon. Not with schools opening again across the country, punishing students who reveal just how crowded their schools are, a rising expectation that people return to work even when it's not safe. Unemployment bonuses for the virus expired over a week ago, and now if they're restored, it will be at a lower level. Rent is past due. Eviction proceedings have started in some states. And the president, who said in March, "I don't take responsibility at all," said in an interview last week, "It is what it is," about the rising American death count. This is chaos. And it's not the first time our country has experienced chaos. And it's certainly not the first time that the church, Jesus' body on earth, has lived through chaos. As the boat, likely a boat with disciples in it, as well as a metaphor for the church to which Matthew was writing, is being tossed by the waves, Jesus walks to them over the water. Jesus is coming to their rescue. He sent them ahead, but like last week when he told them to feed the 20,000, he's not leaving them alone. He's getting them ready to do ministry without him, but never truly without him. Sometime between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m., early in the morning, as the NRSV puts it, in the fourth watch of the night, the last thing the disciples need is a ghost to add to their harassment on the lake. But that's what they think they see, and they're terrified and cry out in fear. This is chaos. And Jesus says to them, "Hey, it's me. Calm down. Don't be afraid." Peter, who later professes that Jesus is the Messiah, who wants to stay on the mountain at the Transfiguration, and who denies even knowing Jesus, responds, "If it's you, call me to you." In following Jesus, Peter is willing to take a risk. If Jesus can walk on water, surely he can also tell his followers and friends to do it and give them the ability to. And he does. Peter is able to do something miraculous at Jesus' bidding, and when he keeps his focus on Jesus. Jesus, who in these chapters 14 to 17 is getting the disciples ready for their own ministries when he's gone, but never truly gone. When Peter looks away from Jesus and focuses on the chaos around him, he starts to sink. And Jesus leaves him to his own devices and lets him drown. Obviously not. Peter cries out for help. Again, Jesus, who has already come to the disciples in the boat's rescue, comes to Peter's rescue. Peter isn't abandoned or left to drown because of his little faith. He has some, even if it's small. And he's saved in spite of his doubt. When Jesus gets into the boat, the wind ceases, and the disciples worship him. Although, by this point, they're just referred to as those in the boat, not necessarily the disciples. Because still of faith, doubting, or of little faith, they're in the boat, they're in the church, worshiping Jesus. And when they focus on Jesus, together or out on the water like Peter, the chaos dissipates. We're gathered together to worship Jesus. Outside is chaos. Listening to the news is chaos. Having no idea what's going to happen anytime in the near future, nothing being predictable, is chaos. And that makes people who like planning or like stability or like making decisions, who lead congregations, anxious. It makes all of us anxious to some degree or another. And it can feel like the world is against us, especially when we've done everything that we're supposed to be doing. The problem is we focus on we're doing what we're supposed to be doing and don't focus on Jesus who comes to our rescue. Following Jesus means taking risks, like Peter asking to walk on the water, Following Jesus comes with doubts and noticing when the world all around us is chaos. Our passage today reminds us that when we follow Jesus, he will always come to our rescue, which does not necessarily look like, poof, a miracle, and the virus is gone. If we're sinking in a storm, this passage reminds us to not be afraid. It bids us, as did our beautiful prelude, to lean on Jesus' everlasting arms, safe and secure from all alarms. Jesus will reach out and pull us up to be engaged in our ministry through his strength and spirit. After things settle down for an hour on Sunday mornings or a week of unplugging, Jesus expects us to be about our ministry through him. Following Jesus isn't just taking risks, and getting rescued isn't being removed from the chaos. It's being reminded we're not alone in it. Following Jesus is living like him, which he empowers us to do and tells us, you give them something to eat. Outside is chaos. Listening to the news is chaos. If you spend multiple hours a day on Twitter, the chaos is even worse. Having no idea what's going to happen anytime in the near future, with nothing being predictable, steady, or reliable. That's chaos. Here comes Jesus in the dark when things are terrifying to rescue us. We're in the midst of our anxieties and concerns, feeling despair. Here comes Jesus, calling to us, like to the disciples and to Peter, saying, hey, it's me. Look at me. Calm down. Don't be afraid. Amen.